So it looks like we got some brand new news regarding the new iPhone 11. Now keep in mind these are only leaks and rumors, but you guys already know that these phones are coming out relatively soon. We're talking months away from now, and since these phones are literally just right around the corner, most likely everything that I'm about to talk about in this video is going to be absolutely accurate and absolutely true regarding the brand new iPhone 11. So let's start off by talking about what type of models Apple is going to be releasing when it comes to the iPhone 11. Now, when it comes to these rumors and these leaks, these are going to be brought to you by Forbes magazine. So keep this in mind. And like I said before, just a second ago, most likely everything that I'm about to talk about is going to be true because it's just way too close to launch that most of this stuff is already confirmed, it already leaked out and things like that. So according to Forbes magazine, it does look like there are going to be three different iPhone 11s. There's going to be the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Max, and then the iPhone 11 XR. So it looks like they are going to have three different versions. Two iPhone 11s that are going to be standard. One's going to be small, and then one's going to be a bigger version. And then for the people who still want to buy a budget phone, at least when it comes to the premium iPhone 11, they will have a choice of a premium iPhone 11, and that's going to be called the iPhone 11 XR, kind of like the 10R already, or the 10 XR that's already on the market. So it looks like you are going to have choices. It looks like we're not at that stage yet where they just want to have one single model like they did back in the day. They still want to give consumers choices when it comes to their smartphone decisions and when it comes to their smartphone buying habits. They want to give options to many different people on the market. But then the very interesting thing about this iPhone 11 that is coming out relatively soon is the fact that we do actually have the design of the brand new iPhone 11. Here is some renders and here is some leaks of the upcoming supposedly iPhone 11, and here's what the iPhone 11 is going to look like. Now if you look at this leak, specifically leaked from Forbes magazine, what does the iPhone 11 look like? Well, it actually looks like it's going to be the same type of phone you may have had for the last, I think, 2 years with the iPhone 10 and then the iPhone 10s and 10s Max and also the iPhone 11, the iPhone 10 XR. So it looks like that design is going to be staying the same. Unfortunately, I know for the longest time now, maybe like 5 or 6 years, they stayed with the same design when it comes to the iPhone 6, the iPhone 6, the iPhone 6s, the iPhone 7, the iPhone 7s, and then the iPhone 8. You can see they wanted to stay with the same design for a long time. Personally, you can incorporate this a number of different ways. Some people don't like that Apple is not changing the design of the phone, and then some people will not mind that they're not changing the same design of the phone. It'll most likely be the same. That's good, I guess, for people who buy a lot of accessories for their phone, who have all these cases and things like that. A lot of these accessories may just flat out work, and it, of course, from an Apple standpoint, that also means that it's going to be easier to repair all these different iPhones because they're using the same style, the same body. Maybe there's slight differences, of course. Maybe the thickness is going to be different. Maybe it'll be a little bit longer and things like that. But overall, if it's using the same type of body and things like that, where it's not a complete new overhaul in design, it is going to be good for Apple. So you can look at it two ways. In my personal opinion, I'm kind of disappointed that we've had the same iPhone design for the longest time when it comes to the iPhone 6 design, and then now with the iPhone 10 design, it does look like we are going to be keeping the iPhone 10 design. I kind of wish Apple would reinvent the wheel and almost every year update the phone, because as you guys know, when it comes to the Apple iPhone specifically, you guys know how the Apple iPhone works. Usually they have two different models each year. They have a numbered model and then they have an S model, and with the S model, it has the same design as like the last previous model. So for instance, you buy the iPhone 10 and then the 10s is supposed to be the one that pretty much just has better specs, but it uses the same type of body. It uses pretty much the same design as the one previous. That's what the S model was always supposed to be for from Apple. And then the numbered one without the S was supposed to be the one where they did innovate. They did change the design of the actual iPhone. They pretty much went hardcore on it and they made it a brand new iPhone. But it looks like they're doing the same thing they did with the iPhone 6. They're pretty much keeping that same design for for 3 generations. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, but it is slightly disappointing to know from a technology nerd, know from a tech enthusiast, that they are going to be keeping the same design when it comes to the Apple iPhone. And then the one thing from these renders that really do surprise me, and I think a lot of people aren't going to like this, I do believe, is the fact that the camera layout on the back does look ugly. It looks like they're going to have a pretty raised up square when it comes to the back of the new iPhone 11. And it looks like you are getting a triple camera layout, and this is pretty common nowadays with a lot of different smartphone manufacturers. Apple is just starting to do that. They see things like Samsung and some of the other brands actually have this triple lens on the back. You'll get things like a wide angle lens. You'll get things like just all these different things. So that is nice to know that at least Apple is actually including these lenses, and in the long run it is good for the consumer. But just the way that they're actually laying this out on the back of the iPhone 11 looks kind of ugly, and I think a lot of people will have to adjust to this brand new cutout. And apparently, according to this actual iPhone 11 leak, it does look like I think Google with the next Google Pixel, the Google Pixel 4 is supposed to have some weird camera cutout like that, where it's kind of a big rectangle square that's kind of raised on the back of the phone. I guess we'll just all have to get to it, but it is slightly disappointing to know that this iPhone is going to look slightly ugly, just because we will have that square on the back of the phone. We will have that triple lens setup. We will have the same design. Of course, I personally think that the design of the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS is perfectly fine, and I'm perfectly happy with the design that they're actually going with, and I think this is a safe bet. I mean, of course, like I said, I would want a new design from Apple, but of course, knowing Apple and knowing what Apple's been doing for the longest time now, they've always wanted to stay the same with the same design. Now, one thing that it looks like, according to Forbes, is going to be a really big killer for a lot of people, and a lot of people were wondering if this is going to be a thing or if this is not going to be a thing. According to Forbes, it looks like the iPhone 11 is going to be another phone from Apple that is going to keep the Lightning port. I know a lot of people were hoping that Apple would actually go ahead and do the USB Type-C, because USB Type-C is the standard in the actual tech industry now. So many things use USB Type-C, whether we're talking about smartphones, headphones, laptops, even the Nintendo Switch. So you can see there is a lot of things that do use USB Type-C. So it looks like we may not be getting USB Type-C, at least from this render. Does that actually mean that we still have a chance of getting USB-C? Yes, it still means that we do have a slight chance of getting USB Type-C, and we may end up getting USB Type-C. But if this leak is so close to the release date of the Apple iPhone 11, most likely if this thing's coming out, it does look like we are going to be stuck with the Lightning port, and that's something that's super disappointing to a lot of fans, because having to carry one cable for pretty much every device would be the dream at this point, and the Lightning port is kind of outdated. I think it is actually slower than USB Type-C, and there's also upsides to USB Type-C when it comes to power, when it comes to peripherals, when it comes to a lot of different things. USB-C is the future, in my opinion. That would have been nice. And even if they kept the same design that they have right now, and it's still the same design as, let's say, the iPhone 10, the iPhone XS, and things like that, I think a lot of people would generally be super excited, even if it wasn't an overhaul in the design of the iPhone. If they actually brought USB Type-C, that would get a lot of people super excited that are tech enthusiasts, or just people in general would be very happy to know that Apple is getting USB Type-C. But from this leak, it looks like that's not the case. And then the biggest thing, since they are going to be keeping the design of the iPhone 10 and iPhone XS, it does look like, according to Forbes and according to these leaks and rumors, it does look like the next version of the iPhone is still going to have the notch, and that's also super disappointing, considering a lot of Android phones are moving away from things like notches, moving away from things like punch outs on the screen like Samsung with the S10 and things like that. It does look like we are headed towards that future of an all screen on the front of your display. No more bezels, no more chins, no more foreheads, no more cameras on the screen. Pretty much an all screen display on the front of your device. So it is kind of disappointing. We're still going to have that same notch we've had for 2 generations now, the iPhone 10 and the iPhone XS. I guess I really can't blame Apple, because I know why Apple is probably putting a notch on the iPhone 11. It looks like they're going to be keeping the notch on the iPhone 11 just because, well, they're one of the people that always want to play it safe when it comes to new technology. That's why they're always recently always the last one to get certain technologies. They just want to make sure it's fleshed out, it's polished, and things like that. That's why we haven't seen the in-screen fingerprint sensor from Apple, and that's why we haven't seen Touch ID return on the iPhone, because Apple wants to wait a couple years, even though Samsung and some other manufacturers like OnePlus, Samsung already has those in-screen fingerprint sensors actually on their cell phones. They want to actually play it safe, so that's why they don't want to put it in right away. So who knows if the next iPhone is is actually going to have an in-screen fingerprint sensor, and who knows if they're actually going to bring Touch ID back to the actual iPhone. But yes, they want to play it safe. And then on another note, the reason they're actually probably keeping the notch, in my opinion, I think this is true, is because, of course, you guys know they have Face ID, and since they do have Face ID technology, they want to keep it around. And you guys know with the Face ID technology specifically, it does have to have a lot of sensors around the camera on the device to detect your eyes, detect your face, and things like that. And that's a really polished type of technology, and since they have that one, there's really no other way to get rid of those sensors and really put them under the display and things like that. We do have things from like Chinese manufacturers now where they're actually getting cameras under the actual display to where you can't see the cameras, but I heard that's not the greatest yet, and there is some drawbacks to that. And then on top of that, I'm not even sure if there's any company on the market as we speak that actually has sensors under the actual display of it. I do know it's camera technology, but I'm not sure if it's sensors. But either way, even if this was a polished, fleshed out thing, you guys know, like I said, Apple would not flat out use this because they're always late to the party, just because, well, they want to make sure these technologies are fleshed out for a couple years before they actually implement them. But anyway, it looks like the iPhone 11 is going to be slightly disappointing from a hardware aspect. Of course, it will be a good phone when this comes out. A lot of people will buy this phone, and overall this is going to be a solid phone, and overall I think most people are going to be happy with their experience when it comes to the iPhone 11. It's just a shame to know that from these rumors, specifically from Forbes magazine, it does look like we are going to be looking at the same design that we had with the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 10s. Anyway guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.